Is Google's own produced AI chips, their TPUs, a game changer for the AI market? Is this the inflection point where investors in companies like AMD and NVIDIA need to readjust their investment thesis and think about other things long term? What companies will actually be behind the infrastructure for the future of the AI space and the chip market going forward? I'm going to show you here a video about the difference between GPUs and the TPUs. And as an investor, obviously, it's very important to understand the type of movements that we are seeing. So, as an investor in AMD, for example, seeing the stock go from $255 down to $200 quite fast. And in the meantime, you read articles about Google having their own AI chips now going forward, and maybe their reliance on companies like AMD slowing down. These type of comments and articles has been flowing around. So I guess for an investor, we need to really take a look at this and be serious about our investment here, so we can maybe pivot to another investment thesis, or maybe stay calm in the boat. So let's go in here and see what is an TPU and what's the difference with GPUs.
In the early boom days of large language models, compute-intensive training has been key, a perfect job for GPUs. But as the models mature, more and more inference is needed.
Now post-training techniques have been introduced to make these models very capable. Now, to extract the value, you need to go to inference. And so that's how people actually use AI, is through inference.
Inference can happen on less powerful chips programmed for more specific tasks. Enter custom ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits, and every major cloud provider designing their own. While a GPU is like a Swiss Army knife, able to do many kinds of parallel math for different AI workloads, think of an ASIC like a single-purpose tool. Barry?
And here you see NVIDIA and AMD's logos, and here you see the ASIC. Reminds me of a of the running shoes. Anyway, we have Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and is it Oracle, Tesla? I don't know what type of company this last symbol is, or maybe it's Broadcom. Anyway, the investment thesis I've had is that GPUs are going to be very important going forward. And what we have seen the latest week here is the hype of ASIC and the application specific integrated circuits, and that may be the future of the AI market. They are talking about inference here, and we know that Lisa Su has also talked about inference being a big part of the future of the artificial intelligence. But she has also said that she is addressing the inference with the GPUs actually. So we according to Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD, we can't just use ASIC to address this increased demand of inference. We actually need to continue have a lot of GPUs, and that is why they are so aggressive in terms of their growth prospects. So that is where I am at the moment, but maybe this is an inflection point, and seeing this video might change our minds.
Efficient and fast, but hardwired to do the exact math for one type of job.
They can be much, much more efficient in running those workloads. But when you specialize them, you can't change them once they're already carved in the silicon. And so those are
Ironwood, that's the TPU chip that Google are producing.
trade-off in terms of flexibility.
While NVIDIA GPUs cost upwards of $40,000 and can be hard to get, startups rely on them because it's even more costly to make your own custom ASIC for AI.
It is hugely expensive, costs minimum tens and often hundreds of millions of dollars.
But for the biggest cloud providers who can't afford them, custom ASICs pay off because they're more power efficient. And
That's our first clue that is it going to be a future market here for NVIDIA and AMD, even if ASIC is going to be the main thing. Yes, because it's just a few companies that can afford to have their own ASIC.
reduce reliance on NVIDIA.
They want to bring cost of AI down. They want to have a little bit more control over the workloads that they build. But at the same time, they're going to continue to work very closely with NVIDIA, with AMD, because they also need the capacity.
Google was the first to make a custom ASIC for AI acceleration, coining the term tensor processing unit when its first ASIC came out in 2015. The TPU also helped lead to the invention of the transformer at Google in 2017, the architecture powering almost all modern AI. We got a tour at Google's chip lab in 2024.
There's actually 4 chips inside there. It's connected, actually 2 of those are connected to a host machine that has CPUs in it. And then all these colorful cables are actually linking together all of the trillium chips to work as one large supercomputer.
So you did hear him talk about that these type of constructions have a lot of CPUs in it, and that's important if you're an investor in AMD because AMD are the market leader in CPUs. So a good clue also. It's important to listen.
A decade after the first TPU, Google just released Ironwood, its 7th generation, and with it a big deal with Anthropic to train its LLM Claude on up to 1 million TPUs.
Some people even think that they're technically on par or even superior to NVIDIA, but traditionally Google has only used them for in-house purposes. There's a lot of speculation that in the longer run, Google might open up access to TPUs more broadly.
Amazon Web Services was the next cloud provider to design its own AI chips, after acquiring Israeli chip startup Annapurna Labs in 2015, where Ron Diamant has worked since day one. AWS announced Inferentia in 2018 and launched Trainium in 2022, now approaching its 3rd generation. Think of Trainium like a cluster of workshops with many small, flexible tensor engines, while Google's TPU is like one big factory conveyor belt with one big rigid grid specialized for matrix math.
The difference between the names is quite telling, but over time we've seen that Trainium chips can serve both inference and training workloads quite well. On average, we see that Trainium provides between 30 and 40% better price performance compared to other hardware vendors in AWS.
What you see also here is that these ASIC, the TPUs, they are producing Trainium and Ironwood at Google is very specific for the native cloud that these companies have. So if you're going to use Trainium, for example, you probably need to use it through the AWS cloud services. If you're going to use Ironwood, the AI chips of Google, that probably in the future they might outsource a bit to earn more money. You probably need to do that and also have a deal with Google to use their cloud milieu, so to speak, their environment for all type of workloads, etc., in the cloud. And this is probably a part of Google's strategy because it's not about selling so many chips so they can compete with NVIDIA. That's not the game plan, obviously. The big money is where Amazon and Microsoft is at the moment, with Amazon and the AWS service, the market leader, and we have also Microsoft, which have like 20 to 25% with the Azure cloud, and they are growing as fast as they can at the moment at Microsoft also. So this is the recurring revenue, and what Google wants to do with this push now and this hype they have around the Gemini 3 model and their TPU chips that obviously is good enough to train Gemini, is to lure companies in their network of services and to use Google Cloud, and through that they can use the AI services that Google provide and also use the TPUs that they have, the Ironwood. That is why they have started to talk with Meta about the deal with the Ironwood TPUs, and it's not just Meta buying like they do from, for example, AMD or NVIDIA buying GPUs. This is like a bigger deal where Meta needs to use Google Cloud, so this become a massive deal for Google and a recurring revenue deal for Google. So they don't just want to sell chips to customers and to companies that are actually their competitors. They want to have a win-win deal when they sell something. So that is where we are at the moment. That is the long-term game plan, I think, for Alphabet in the marketplace. And I also think that the big play here isn't that they are going to outcompete NVIDIA and AMD in terms of GPUs, because as you see, what they aim for are quite different. And the TPUs that Google are having, the Ironwood, that are a bit hyped at the moment, is specific for the cloud environment that Google are, and they have used them to train at Google specifically, and this is why they can't sell to the same type of customers that, for example, AMD does. So AMD can sell their GPUs to Microsoft, to Meta, to Amazon, and to Google, while Google probably need to lock in customers in their cloud before they sell their TPUs. It's almost like uh, AI chips as a service.
In October, we went to northern Indiana for the first on-camera tour of Amazon's biggest AI data center, where Anthropic is training its models on 500,000 Trainium 2 chips. Behind me right now, they are working on delivering these towers. Two of them together is going to make up one ultra server. And what's especially interesting is there are no NVIDIA GPUs in there. Although AWS is filling its other data centers with lots of NVIDIA GPUs to feed hungry AI customers like OpenAI.
The investment they're making on our platform is still significant and significantly more than you're seeing even in some of the upcoming ASIC deployments.
And we can't talk about custom ASICs without mentioning Broadcom and its top competitor Marvell, which act as back-end partners so clients don't have to hire full silicon teams to handle everything in-house.
All of the big hyperscalers actually that have ASIC programs partner with at least one chip design company, Broadcom being the most important, which helps provide the IP and the know-how and the networking. And so you've seen Broadcom in particular be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the AI boom.
So this is one of my worst decisions lately in the stock market. I thought that I need to slim my portfolio. I had like some different type of AI stocks like Micron, Broadcom, AMD, and I just thought that I needed to focus more on one chip. So I sold Broadcom despite knowing they have a unique position in the market space. Same with Micron, and I know it will be like a lack of memberships out there. And as we see now, the price of memberships are just going sky high. So both these companies I had and I sold, and it was a mistake. So one of the more common mistake you do in the stock market is actually to sell your stocks too fast. So that is why when I give advice, it's very long-term advice. Find your stock, have money over, don't be too tight on margin, and have that long-term 10, 15 years perspective. And among those bigger companies and chip companies, and also like the big seven companies like Microsoft, Amazon, it's hard to tell which of them that's gonna win. So that is why it could be good to diverse your investments, so to speak.
Broadcom helped build Google's TPUs. Meta's training and inference accelerator launched in 2023, and now a huge new deal to help OpenAI build its own custom ASICs starting in 2026.
We see Broadcom winning 70, maybe even 80% of this market. We see this market accelerating, at a mid double-digit CAGR over the next 5 years.
Microsoft is also getting into the ASIC game, hoping to primarily use its own Maya chips in its Azure data centers. Although little has been revealed since plans were announced in 2023, and its next Maya chip is facing delays. Intel has its own Gaudi line of custom ASICs for AI. Tesla has announced an ASIC, and Qualcomm is breaking into data center chips with the AI 200. Of course, there's also a slew of startups going all in on custom AI chips too, like Cerebras, making huge full wafer AI chips, and Grok, with inference-focused language processing units. The final big category of AI chips.
Now I think you have a better understanding of the AI chip market and the latest news regarding Google stock and NVIDIA stock, and a lot of news about both NVIDIA and AMD getting more competition in the AI chip market. But you should understand that the demand for different types of AI solutions is so high, it's sky high, that we need both ASIC solutions and the TPUs, and we need a lot of GPUs. Some people might think that Google just use their TPUs, but they are actually not. They are still deploying a lot of GPUs from NVIDIA. So despite the biggest companies using a lot of TPUs and their own produced AI chips, that's not enough. And obviously they need companies like AMD and NVIDIA to continue to innovate the market so they can use the latest and best products beside the inference solutions that they have, so they can improve and innovate their AI solutions long term. So regarding the future situation here for both NVIDIA and AMD, I don't think the latest news we have about these ASIC solutions is something you should be afraid about as an investor. I think it just shows the huge demand for the AI market, and that the companies want to not be too dependent on a single vendor. They want to have some flexibility themselves, and they are willing to put a lot of money and effort to do that. But we still have a lot of companies that can't afford to produce their own AI chips, like for example Google has done. So all these companies will have to buy GPUs, and I think the biggest opportunity for AMD is not just the partnership with OpenAI and the other big companies that they are talking about gonna deploy a lot of chips going forward. Is also all these future companies that need GPUs that are more general, that are good with inference, but they are also easy to deploy and that are quite energy efficient, and that is where we have AMD. So having that in mind, for me, the long-term investment thesis after the investor day of AMD and their continuing revenue growth that Lisa Su with her crew talked about, and the earnings growth, I still believe in what they said, and therefore my investment thesis are not changing because I read a lot of new news, or because Berkshire Hathaway are buying a lot of stock in Google. So that is how I work in the stock market. When I hear something, I don't just go in and make some fast moves. I try to break down the news and kind of just watch every part of what I read and analyze myself before I go and change my investment. It's about thinking a bit slower. So that was it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great time going forward.